My name's Carter Mangus. I'm 21 years old, and I'm going to drop out of college to protest that climate change is bad, and I want Brad Pitt to play me in the movie.
A damn good idea. Welcome to the Rendezvous. This week you got Zach, Carter, and Davis talking about more local type news for Wyoming. And yeah. So Yellowstone has been in the news lately. People being stupid, trying to cook chicken and geysers, getting off the boardwalks, trying to go up and look at geysers up close and stuff. And I guess they've had a hell of a time trying to manage all these people that are just being plain stupid and breaking rules. All their violations and local crime in Yellowstone has gone up a bunch for 2020, which just adds to the chaos of the year. Zach, do you want to kind of take us away on that?
Yeah. Well, we'll start off, the park expected attendance to be really low just because of COVID and, all the ways that 2020 has messed with us this year. But it's actually been the opposite of that. And we'll talk more about just how busy they've been. But the example of the amount of crime that's been happening, they call these thermal trespass when you go up onto the geyser or the hot springs where you're not supposed to go. But so just the amount of issues like that they've had has proven that they've just been so busy and so kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah, so they average about 40 people committing this thermal trespass every year is about the Yellowstone average. This year so far, I think this article was this was for the whole year. They had 122 cases of thermal trespass. So that's up 3 times than their average.
See, and you wonder what drives people to do this. I mean, here, I just pulled this up on Google. So, the hot pools in Yellowstone are about 456 degrees Fahrenheit. So, what person in their right mind says, hey, man, I want to see how close I can get to this thing? It seems flawed. It's flawed thinking.
People even were going up to Old Faithful and blatantly going straight up to Old Faithful. There's always a bunch of people there and a bunch of park rangers there because it's Old Faithful. It's the biggest attraction to the whole park.
Yeah.
There's accounts of multiple people this year just carrying American flags, just openly being defiant and going straight up to Old Faithful and looking down into it.
See,
you get blasted by a geyser, you're good as dead.
This is what's gonna happen. Some dumbass is gonna fall into Old Faithful before the end of the year and set off the whole volcano to fucking blow up, and then the world's gonna end in 2020.
It's gonna be the human
sacrifice. That's how we're going out.
No, dude. Well, people already have done that. There's been people that have fallen into Old Faithful. Somebody did die in there a couple. It's not recent. It was several years ago. But it's you guys, the boardwalk is a very good distance away from the peak of the geyser. You have to be determined, like you said, to walk up there and fall in. Yeah. Here's what I picture: somebody peeking over the edge, looking into the geyser, and then that water comes. And then it's just the scene at the end of Indiana Jones where they look into the ark, and their faces just start melting, and then you see it burn down to skeletons. That's what I picture.
Well, could you imagine if they fall in right before the geyser goes off? They kind of cut themselves up on rocks, and so the geyser shoots up, and it's just bloody as hell.
Arms and legs flying through the air. Oh gosh.
That'd be a sight to see. That'd make some children's year.
Yeah.
Speaking of children.
Hold on, I got a question. you were saying the hot spring water gets up to like 456 degrees Fahrenheit. So back in the Mountain Man era, there were accounts of them going to Yellowstone and sitting in hot pools kind of as like jacuzzis.
Sure.
So that's either completely false or,
Well,
I mean, I know
I
there's-
have one of two theories on that.
Well, yeah, like I've gone to the Boiling River in
Yeah.
Gardner, Montana, where you can sit in some hot pools and stuff, but like, how did they know which ones were safe to sit in and which ones were gonna
Trial
burn
and
them
error.
alive?
Trial and error, baby. They're like, hey, you test this one out and see what happens. I'm like, oh, my hand. Yeah.
No, what probably happened was there were some Indians before the white men who tried out and burned their hands and said, no, don't go in that one. Go in this one.
This one cooler than that one. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or
And
you've got-
I'm sure like once a few people start realizing which ones are like not gonna burn you alive, then everyone's just kind of, it's like it becomes common knowledge.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
that's kind of funny though. I've never heard that before.
The mountain men used to sit in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
Huh.
Yeah.
Just as
they're either
like,
tall tales or they found the right ones.
and with mountain mans, it's tall tales is a that could be fairly accurate. That it was just lies, but
Yeah.
still. I mean, there are boiling rivers and like the Saratoga Hot Springs and
Mhm.
Thermopolis. Like you
Yeah.
can sit in some, but
Right.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe like in the 1800s, late 1700s, when mountain men were roaming about, maybe like from then to now, the like elemental composition of the hot springs or like whatever goes into making them so hot has changed a little bit too. So
maybe we just got soft as a people.
humans just got soft. We need to go bathe in boiling water more.
Probably. Well, so speaking of burns and hot springs, this
Yeah,
was started back
children.
in like late September or October, but a 3-year-old fell in, suffered second-degree burns. I guess the child took off running from the trail, slipped, and then fell into a small thermal feature. Yeah, they had to life flight him to Idaho. Burns to the lower body and back. Yeah, well, so here's the other thing people don't realize either is that all those, like the calcium and stuff builds up on the edges of those hot springs, and it's not very sturdy. Like it's very thin and fragile, and so you can even fall through that into the hot spring. So,
Yeah.
and I
There's
don't
been
think
reports
that's,
of animals falling through that into the hot springs, like walking on actual ground that you would think is actual ground and then falling into a thermal feature.
Yeah.
so this kid's lucky that didn't happen to him, that he just slipped and fell, but other people in the past have done that and they've died.
I think he's lucky that he even got out of there with only second-degree burns.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, did they say like how far away the thermal feature was from the trail? Because some of those trails, they can get pretty close if you're on some of the boardwalk trails.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting to know what kind of thermal feature or how close it was.
Yeah, it didn't say, and you can attribute that to CNN's poor journalistic standards, but
Thanks, CNN.
Bastards.
no, it didn't say. I would imagine if he took off running, he probably was on the boardwalk, because they can get wet, and especially depending on the time of day. So they were probably on like the boardwalk.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to like before we started the episode, we were kind of talking about, oh, we're gonna bag on some parents again for shitty parenting, but I guess I started thinking if it is on the boardwalk, it takes one wrong step for a 3-year-old to slip and fall,
Yeah. True.
But still, those fucking parents are worthless.
I've been thinking about when you said humans are getting soft. So January 1st of every year, Lake DeSmet in between Sheridan and Buffalo does their annual polar plunge, so maybe we just need to start jumping into hot springs once a year.
During like the hottest day of the year,
Yeah.
go in August. We jump into cold water in the winter, and we jump into boiling hot water in the summer.
Revitalizes the body.
Oh God. Well, do you guys want to talk about this guy and his chicken dinner in Yellowstone?
Yeah.
See, out of all the stupid things people could possibly do, trying to boil chicken or fry chicken in water.
I don't even think they wanted to boil it. They openly said they wanted to try to fry the chicken, which doesn't even make sense because you need oil. You can't just fry chicken in boiling water. It doesn't fucking work like that. Idiots.
You can cook the chicken in boiling water, but you can't fry it. Did they bread the chicken at least before they tried to fry it in the water?
So I think they were going to do it all old school. The Rangers were alerted to the hydrothermal hot pot sesh after receiving reports that people saw some people hiking towards Shoshone Geyser Basin with cooking pots. And then the investigation revealed 2 whole birds in a burlap sack resting in a hot spring with cookware nearby. He's not the first to do it, though. I think they were inspired. In 2000,
I was inspired to try to cook this chicken.
In 2001, a Seattle TV host was fined after digging an impromptu barbecue pit in a thermal area to demonstrate how natural heat could cook chicken. So, yeah, they were there, and I think they were there when they shouldn't have been. So not only were they fined for placing things in the hot springs, but I don't think they were supposed to be in the park at that time.
Huh.
Interesting.
Well, they did. So at the start of COVID, like in May, when the park usually opens up, Yellowstone started the year off with someone, I think, falling into a thermal feature before the park was even open because of COVID.
Yeah.
So the whole year has just been people breaking the rules before it even opens.
Right. People should also realize that Yellowstone is federal land, and when you commit a crime on federal land, you go to federal court. So you're not just dealing with little minor things. Like, that's some big stuff. So just use your brains. If you're thinking you're going to go to Yellowstone to hide a body or something, you've just it doesn't work like that.
Well, now, not quite.
Whoa.
There was an article I was reading, maybe, I don't know, I think back in the spring. I think it was a Meat Eater article. There's a area of like 50 square miles in Yellowstone that you can get away with murder just because, God, how'd it go? There was no way to prosecute you through some loopholes or whatnot, like in front of a jury of your peers, because nobody lives in this certain area. So you couldn't technically have a jury in this certain district or area.
I remember you bringing this up, and Davis said something about killing somebody or doing. He was like,
there is an area of like 50 square miles or something. You can literally get away with murder.
I remember. So I had a constitutional law class last semester, and we talked about this too. And she said basically what would happen is, if you did get caught there, it would go to the next nearest jurisdiction. So yeah. So I mean, I think that if I remember correctly, I think that's what she said.
So don't murder somebody.
No, don't kill anybody.
It not only goes against the law, but morals too.
Morals are subjective. As Hoon will tell you, Buffalo Hunter will tell you that every day.
Morals are subjective. Words of wisdom to live by.
So there's that. I think that wraps up our Yellowstone talk, right?
Yeah. Well, that and you were gonna hint at the September and October for Yellowstone was the busiest. September was the busiest September on record for Yellowstone this year, and October was the busiest October on record.
Yeah. Yep.
And I kind of feel bad for all of these National Park Service guys because they had to deal with a lower amount of staff this year just because of COVID stuff.
Sure.
So I think they were running at 60% of their normal staff and then dealing with 3 times the amount of violations and crime.
Dealing with people trying to fry chicken in a hot spring.
And like a historic number of people going to the park at the end of the year. God, that would just be a headache.
So, hey, let me ask you this, Davis. So, when Buffalo Hunter heard the news that these guys were trying to fry chicken in a hot springs, did he like catch on fire and like the whole building shake?
No, he I don't even know if he like maybe I showed him that. I don't know if he's actually seen that.
If any of you know Buffalo Hunter, you would know that it's his way or the highway, and if someone does something wrong,
When it comes to cooking,
he gets very, very enraged.
Yeah.
And I mean, he won't shut up about it for a solid day or two.
And Carter knows this because he fucks up every meal he ever cooks. So
bullshit. I ain't no Bobby Flay, but I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. October visits up 110% from October last year. Let's say I think they hosted 360,000 people this year in October. August was the second busiest, but it's been a trend. The visits have continued to set records. So
September was up 27% from 2019, and 2019 it set a record for most ever in September too. So I think overall though for the whole year, because they were shut down for so long, I think the park is still down like 6% from 2019, which wasn't bad because 2019 was a pretty big year.
Yeah, so the total number from 2019 was 3,979,000. So far this year, it's been 3,743,000. So, yeah.
Better hurry up and go visit Yellowstone before they close the road going through it then.
They already did.
Oh, they did already?
Yeah, usually closes end of October.
Well, shit. Never mind. Disregard that.
And then I think it opens up in December for the winter stuff, like snowmobiling and stuff on roads. And I go cross-country skiing there every once in a while. It's pretty cool to see Yellowstone in the winter.
Yeah.
Especially with the lack of people that are probably up there in the winter.
Yeah, you go through like Gardner, Montana into Mammoth and then go into the Lamar Valley.
Yeah.
Filled with buffalo. That's like where most of the buffalo winter. Yeah. It's so impressive.
You ever seen spirit buffalo?
No.
Darn it.
Well, so we're going to move on to our next topic.
Yeah.
Which is about hemp. Yeah.
Agriculture in Wyoming.
Yep. So this story comes from a couple. I can't see the date. For some reason, my phone's being dumb. It came from like September, early October. But it's in Powell. There's a hemp farm there. They had to destroy part of their crop because it exceeded the THC level. So let's see. They have about 190 tons of hemp that they produced, 137 acres. I think that's right. Yeah. And then they had to destroy, how much of it did they have to destroy? I I think 107 acres of it they had to destroy because it had too much THC. So the Wyoming regulations require that any hemp produced under licenses of the Wyoming Department of Ag, that their THC level cannot be greater than 0.3%. So if the plant tests higher than that, they have to destroy the crop. So I think they just till or bulldoze the land, and then they have to replant.
So how do you control the THC level in those plants? Like,
Probably something to do with like genetically engineering like seeds to not have as much THC in them, and then you plant the seeds, and then the plants grow with less THC.
so
Yeah,
what's 0.4% gonna do?
Yeah, dude, that's like 20 joints to get high.
Yeah.
What the heck?
I don't know.
I don't know. And when you're talking about it too, I mean, they're growing hemp for what you said CBD purposes, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really know a whole lot about CBD because I don't really care that much about it. But like, I would imagine that THC doesn't play a huge role in CBD production. So like, if you're over this THC limit of 0.3 and like you're at 0.7 or like if you're even below like 1% of THC, like how is that gonna affect your CBD production? Or like I just don't get why the Department of Ag is so on these guys' asses about it.
Well,
Right.
especially the way the Wyoming economy is this year with the pandemic.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Well,
wholeheartedly agree.
there's just the state of our economy, the fact that we're going into a budget deficit, and the coal and oil, for those of you out there who don't know, is pretty much devastated in Wyoming. I think the last time I looked, there were 4 oil rigs going. There is coal plants shutting down. I think there's one in Gillette that just announced they're bankrupt, they're closing. And now there's a new law. The state law legislature is looking to consider tightening restrictions on hemp products. So whether that means
That's just a bad move, though.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
if we're
the problem is you get a bunch of farmers in the legislature of Wyoming who want to old school and we're good old cowboys from the 1800s of Wyoming. They want it to be the same way Wyoming's always been, but they don't realize shit's got to change or Wyoming's going to go under big time.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, yeah. Because, I mean, just like with the rate that other states around us especially are changing, the way that they go about doing their ag, and you have all these states like after this last election, or after the election, whatever, Montana legalized marijuana, and
South
who
Dakota.
else?
South Dakota did.
South Dakota, Arizona. So, I mean, I feel like they're doing it because they realize that times are changing to the point where they have to get like agriculture production from elsewhere and they need a source of revenue from elsewhere. So, I mean, Wyoming just tightening the restrictions furthermore is just gonna.
Well, and it's not like we're saying be like Oregon and legalize all drugs. We can all agree meth should be illegal. Like, right? I thought we could all agree on that, and then Oregon's like, no, meth is fine. Like,
Meth, heroin.
Like,
It looks like they're not trying to restrict production, but hemp products. So I guess some states are selling hemp buds, smokable hemp buds. And I guess there's a shop in Cody that's selling them. But again, like we've talked about, there's not that much THC in there. Where did they say it? Like, it's not even. I lost the quote. Oh, here. Smoking the leafy substance would bring only a headache and a burnt tongue from these hemp buds that they're selling. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. And I mean, look, I don't smoke pot. I've never wanted to smoke pot. I won't smoke pot. But there is no denying the fact that states like Colorado, Washington, and now Montana and South Dakota are going to see incredible revenue bumps because of the tax on marijuana products. And that is money that the state of Wyoming could be cashing in on right now.
Well, and even if you want to limit the drug use part of hemp and marijuana, you can make hemp plastics, which are so much better for the environment than regular plastics.
Mm-hmm.
And you're limiting that part too. Like there's so much good stuff that can be used from hemp that you're just throwing out the window
Yeah.
because you don't want to change.
Well, and the other thing too is that like you start tightening these restrictions like on hemp even, not even like recreational drug usage, but you start tightening the restrictions and then people start outsourcing, which is just more money lost in the state because people are like, well, I can get this in Montana or Colorado or South Dakota or whatever because you guys are being assholes about it.
And it's not like people in Wyoming aren't already smoking pot. We know a lot of them. And that's just money being flushed out of the state of Wyoming to other states.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know, regulate the shit out of it, tax the shit out of it, and there you go. There you go. You start cashing in on it. So, yeah,
Well, yeah, man. I mean, you go to Colorado and you could spend like $20 in a dispensary, like on whatever you're buying, and then you end up spending like another $20 on the damn tax. Like, come on.
Yeah. So
It's easy money, especially with how like all the ways that people's thought processes are changing nowadays.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like you said, Davis. You've got a bunch of old Wyoming folks who don't want anything to change. Well, it's either we change or we die. I mean,
it's natural selection. You just got to apply it to the states.
Yes.
Adapt or die.
Yeah. Well, bet our listeners didn't think we'd be Cheech and Chonging it today, but.
Well, one of my favorite stand-ups is Tommy Chong, and he's talking about how a guy high is less of a problem than someone who's drunk driving. Like, what's the worst a guy that's high gonna do? He's going like 5 miles an hour.
Whoa, man.
Just gonna get himself run over.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I was just sitting at a light and I was waiting for the little guy to pop up on the thing before I could go because the red hand was just telling me to stop. The light was green, sir. Oh,
where am
I? Anyway, I think that's all we've got for today.
Final thoughts?
Let's not shut down any. I don't know. Let's just be sensible. Let's just use our brains a little bit. You know, we've been told
2020, we can't do that.
Yeah, frick.
My brain won't work for another month or so until 2021 rolls around.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I think use your brains when it comes to new solutions and use your brain when it comes to questionable things like cooking your chicken in a hot spring or taking a dip in the hot springs. Let's just make America.
I mean, in those guys' defense, though, they could have been doing way worse things than trying to cook a chicken in the hot springs. So.
Yeah.
Cook meth in the hot springs, sell it in Oregon.
All right.
Now there's an idea.
Final thought, Carter?
I mean, not really, I guess. Just piggybacking on what Zach said. Use your heads. Times are changing, so I guess we kind of have to do the same thing, even though not everyone may agree with it. But we live in times where we have to make sensible decisions, even if it's not what we think may be right or wrong. So, Godspeed.
Yeah, and I got nothing. See you next time on the Rendezvous.